Hello everyone, my name is Bianca. I am the owner of and founder of Khaki Colored Kidz, a YouTube channel and brand for mixed race kids. And I am here today to tell you about how Khaki Colored Kidz came about, why we started this company, and why it is important that this company reach the people that needs to be reached, and our future. I have three kids. Three mixed race kids, Duke, Brayden, and my little one, Max. And I love all three of them. They're all boys. And I had my oldest son, Duke, when I was a teenager. I was 17, right out of high school. And early on, I saw like signs of low self-esteem in my son, Duke. I was traveling a lot due to being in the military, and we lived in a lot of different places, different locations. So he was like exposed to a lot of different cultures, like growing up, and he was exposed to like a lot of different kids because we all know how soldiers are. They like to go overseas and, you know, bring back wives and stuff like that. So like his classroom was like fully like, you know, diverse. And so that's how he grew up. So basically he grew up, you know, around like multicultural environment. But what I noticed was like we lived in El Paso, Texas, and mostly like majority of the community is Hispanic. And I dropped him off at school one day, and actually it was daycare. I dropped him off at daycare one day and told him have a good day. I went to work, I came back, and the daycare provider was like gathering all the kids because all the parents were there to pick up the kids. And she says, you know, one by one, she's calling the kid's name, and she's like, Jose, your mom's here. And I'm like, you know, waiting for my kid, and here comes my kid. And she says, Jose, have a good night. And I said, why are you calling him Jose? Like, that's not his name. And she's like, well, that's what he told me. And I'm like, his name's not Jose, his name's Duke. And she's like, oh, well, that's what he told me. I'm like, no, that's okay. And that was like literally the first time I like realized like he was not comfortable with his name per se, or he just felt like he needed to fit in that environment. So fast forward, we moved from Texas, we moved to Illinois, that's where I'm from. But we moved to the northern part of Illinois. I'm from Chicago, so I decided to move closer to the VA, where I can be seen for medical and stuff like that, since I was out of the military. And basically, it's predominantly white. And so from the age of like 7 to 14, or 13, 14 years old, he was living in a predominantly white neighborhood. And that's when he kind of, you know, I started seeing like a little bit of his struggles or whatever like that. Never really paid any like real attention to it because it was just like, you know how kids are, it's like growing pains, you know, trying to, you know, figure yourself out. But I didn't know like exactly how deep it was until we did decide to move to Chicago. And I was like, I think we need to like have a little bit of culture, you know, in our life. He was working as a model and an actor, and the time and it took to get from where we live downtown to do an audition and come back, it was just like ridiculous traffic. So I'm like, you know what, we should just move inside of the city. You know, the kids can get culture, and we can, you know, cut the time in half with the, you know, commute. So we did that, but we all know Chicago is violent. We know it's riddled with gangs and stuff like that. And I felt comfortable moving there because I was like, you know, I don't have to worry about my kids getting into any trouble like that. Like they aren't, you know, cut from that cloth. So his first year in a public school in Chicago, actually his first day, to be honest, Duke played basketball, all sports ever since he was 3. Like he's very athletic, very good at sports or whatever. And he was playing basketball with this young man. 16-year-old 8th grader punched him in the face, broke his nose, and told him, don't come here with that light-skinned SHIT. And that was disheartening because, you know, Duke identified as being black, and he also wanted black friends that he can hang out with. And so that was disappointing for him, but it did not discourage him to continue to make friends and try to have the, you know, rite of passage of a young black man that he needed and that he deserved to have. But unfortunately, he ended up getting bullied. He ended up getting his stuff stolen from these so-called friends. They ended up, you know, talking about him, saying that he wasn't black enough, or he was not gangster enough, or he just wasn't, and he was, the way that he talked, the way that he dressed, it was just basically just whitewashed. And the only reason why I know this because when he was like 14, he walked up to me and said, you know, we've been whitewashed. And I said, get out of my face. Like, literally, get out of my face. Like, I'm not having this conversation with you. Like, and I didn't. We didn't have that conversation. I just blew it off, and we kept going. And then one day he asked me, he says, you think I'm ugly? And I said, why would you think such a thing? And he says, because he was like, you know, I was trying to date white girls when we lived in our old neighborhood, and they told me that I was ugly. And so why do you always think I always like try to perm my hair, or, you know, all the time? He's like, I thought if my hair was straight, you know, that they would like me better. And only thing I can do in that moment was just reassure him that he wasn't ugly, and that, you know, he was handsome, and that he had a lot to offer. And so again, it was a missed opportunity to, you know, talk to him about his struggles. Unfortunately, we ended up having to move. Too much gang violence, too much death surrounding the neighborhood, absolutely too much shootings, and the fact that my son wanted to belong so bad that he was trying to participate and partake in the things that his friends were doing, and I just absolutely wasn't going to lose my son to the streets. So we decided to move back to the suburbs. And thinking about it now, like, something that he said to me that will always stick with me is, he said, Mom, don't want to move back to the suburbs. And I said, why? And he's like, I just don't. I said, well, we're not staying here. I'm like, I'm not going to lose you to street life. Like, I'm not going to. Like, we're leaving. Like, I just can't do it. Like, I'm like, you can go back to your friends that you already knew, and, you know, the high school. He's like, look, I don't want to be the black guy, okay? So I was like, what are you talking about? Honestly, I did not have a clue what he was talking about. Like, teenagers is difficult because it's like, it's that disconnect. Like, I was just a teenager myself, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I'm like seriously disconnected from him. So he told me, he's like, I don't want to be the black guy. They expect me to be the black guy, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you don't have to be anything. You can just be yourself, you know, just be Duke. That's it. Straight mom answer, you know, that's what I gave him, not even recognizing that he's like struggling, trying to fit in. And then when the guys, his friends, you know, stole from him, I told him, I was like, you know, I told you, you know, not to be as trusting. I'm like, you have to, you know, be more aware. I'm like, I know you're hurt about your friends doing this to you. And he was like, I don't care. But deep down inside, I can tell that he did care, because he wanted that camaraderie. He wanted that friendship. He wanted to feel like he belonged, and he just did not fit in with these guys. So we move, we go back, and he begins to act like the black guy. And you know what that means, you know, what we see on TV as far as the black guy. We see rap videos, we see violence on the news about what black guys are, what they portray us black people as on TV, and that's what he does. He goes to school. You know, he tries to act like the black kid, the cool black kid, and he gets kicked out of school. That was devastating for me, because it was just components of things could have been handled a lot better, but it wasn't. But anyway, he ended up going to alternative school, and where there were real criminals, real drug users, real, kids that had real struggles, and he lasted about 2 weeks and he killed himself. So me being a mom that made sacrifices for my firstborn son, loved him more than I love myself, and I took it really hard. Like, I took it bad. Like, I'm still taking it hard. I'm still taking it bad. And I just did not know what I wanted to do as far as how am I going to go about making sure that, this doesn't happen to my kids, my other kids, and anybody else's kids. I felt like, there are other kids that are out there that have the same struggles. One of those kids is my other son. He has the same exact struggles as Duke did, and so I just came up with the conclusion that this is something nobody wants to talk about. Like, this is the elephant in the room that everybody tries to overlook or pass by. And in the Black community, I feel like this is something that we have yet to sit down, talk about, and discuss, because that's where my son killed himself. It was a combination. Not being able to fit in with the Blacks, and not being Black enough, and not being able to fit in with the whites or anybody else because they expected him to be Black, and he could not be Duke. So I came up with Khaki Colored Kidz because when Duke was maybe 3 or 4, he would talk in color, and he's like, oh, this pink girl did this and this Black boy did that. I'm like, and what color are you? And he's like, oh, I'm just a little bit khaki. So hence the name Khaki Colored Kidz. And what we do is we go on an adventure. We go around the world. We highlight positive contributions that other countries have made. Sometimes kids don't even know what they're mixed with, But if they do know what they're mixed with, they don't know that they can be proud of that mixture. So I oftentimes find that, kids that are mixed, they feel like they have to choose, either I'm this or I'm that. But with Khaki Colored Kidz, you don't have to choose, because being this or that is both great. So what we do is we go around the world, different countries, we explore different contributions that they made to this world. And we eat from that country, we, explore those contributions, and then we thank the country at the end of the segment to let them know, hey, if you're half Mexican, thank you for this contribution, and you're phenomenal, you're great, exactly how you are, and that helps build kids' self-esteem. And then we show them, how to take care of their hair. We have a segment for that, and then we have, a segment to tell you about people that are mixed, that are celebrities that look like them, because that's important. You have to see yourself. You have to see yourself in other people. That way it gives you a chance to feel confident and be like, hey, you know what? If that person can do it, I can do it. And oftentimes, mixed kids don't see that. Black kids can see multiple people that look like them that do great things. So does white kids. So does Mexican kids, Hispanic kids. Mixed kids hardly ever get an option to see somebody mixed that looks like them and able to say, hey, they contributed this to the world. And so that's my goal. And my favorite part of the show, even though we have many segments of the show, but my favorite part of the show is the pros and cons portion. With the pros and cons, that's where the truth comes out, The kids are able to tell why they like to be mixed, what makes them happy, what makes them sad about being mixed. Personally, when I did the pros and cons with my own son, Braden, it kind of broke my heart because not only did he tell the truth about why he don't like being mixed, it was just heartbreaking that he had to deal with that. And like, he's my kid. Like, nobody wants to see their kid hurt. And so I believe that there is a Duke and a Braden in every single mixed kid. And so with that being said, it is imperative that Khaki Colored Kidz is here, that we are to remain here, and we are here to explore how we can, solve childhood diversity issues. That's my goal. That's my only goal until I join my son, is to make sure that kids don't have to deal with childhood diversity issues, because that's something they shouldn't have to worry about. They should have to worry about, prom, or, not eating their vegetables, or, stuff like that. But childhood diversity issues should never have ever been an issue for my kid. And it took my son away from me. It took my son away from this world. And anybody that ever knew him knew he was a bright light. And I'm not saying that because he's my kid. I'm saying that because it's true. And I'm saying that he could have did great things in this world. He already had done great things in this world. Can you imagine writing an obituary for a 15-year-old? What possibly could a 15-year-old have done in 15 years? Well, I'm going to tell you. Duke had been on many TV shows, done many commercials. He had his own dog walking business. He had his own business as far as he made paracord bracelets. He sold them. He was just a phenomenal big brother, nephew, son, friend. Anything that you needed from him, he was caring. Little kids flocked to him. Not only did they flock to him, but they loved him. And it was very heartbreaking for them to have to see him not here anymore, or see him in a casket, see him dead. But still to this day, they still love him. They still think about him. They still talk about him. And so that's why I have to do my part to make sure that his spirit is never gonna go away. And he's gonna continue to help kids. He's gonna continue to be a bright light through Khaki Colored Kidz. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And always, KhakiColoredKidz.com, Khaki Colored Kidz on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, but mostly YouTube to catch the adventures of Khaki Colored Kidz. And if you have Khaki Colored Kids that are struggling, you can always email us. We're always available. We're always here to hear stories. If you have a story, reach out to us. Definitely would love to hear more stories of kids being able to navigate and get through this tough part of their life. So until next time.